Today we have Rose Rendon on the show. She is an intuitive medium, and she is always coaching women, helping them gain clarity on their love life, relationships, marriage, and equally as important, she's been married for a very long time, and she has 3 kids. So she walks the talk. That's
Yes.
important. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me here. Definitely, that feels about right.
Okay, so let's get to the basics.
Perfect.
Who's your husband and what is he like?
So my husband's name is Jesse Hernandez, and he is very much a quiet soul. He's very calm and likes to just take the time to really know where he's at. He's very detailed in that aspect, but just a loving father for sure, and loving husband in his own way. Yeah, that's who he is. He calls himself a simple guy.
And how long have you guys been together?
We've been together for 16 years, married for 12.
Okay, and you have 3 kids?
We have 3 kids. We have 3 lovely kids. My daughter is actually 18. And then we have a 12-year-old and a 11-year-old soon to be.
Wow. So did you guys meet when you were in your 20s, relatively young?
Relatively young, yes. So my first daughter is from a separate relationship, and he took her on when she was about to turn 2.
Cute.
Yes, and then we waited, about 4 more years till we had our next baby, and then right after we had our last. So it was an interesting ride.
Was that last one planned?
No.
Right. That's the way you said it. I feel like it happens that way too.
It's really interesting because yes, it happened that way where the second one was clearly planned, and we were saying maybe we'll wait till she's 3 or 4. 9 months, she was 9 months, and then I became pregnant with my second, and I kind of felt like, what is this? What did I just get myself into? But he was actually super supportive about it and just was like, listen, by the time we're 50, they will be out of the house. Let's look at it like that. Let's take that approach. So it was a nice thing to see, because now they're very, very close, my 2 last ones. So it worked out. It all happened as it should.
Yeah, it always does, doesn't it?
Sure enough. Definitely. There's no coincidence, for sure.
Now, Jesse, one of the words you use to describe him is supportive.
Yes.
Has he always been very supportive?
Yes and no. So yes, in the sense that he really wanted me to find what made me happy. No, in the way I went about a lot of the times, but I think that he just wanted to be protective of my space and my time. So a lot of the things that I wanted to venture into, he kind of let me know that he wasn't so excited about it. But he always allowed me to do what I wanted to do. He never told me I could not. However, there were times where he needed to remind me that he also needed my support.
And what does he do for work?
So he is an electrician.
Okay.
He just went into that space maybe 2 years ago. So there was a lot of support back and forth from the both of us, on a financial level and also an emotional level, because he was trying to figure out who he was. And the same time I was trying to step into who I knew I already was.
Okay, this is when you guys first met?
Correct.
Okay, so what kind of space were you in? Were you looking for a relationship when you guys met?
I was not looking for anything. I had just stepped out of the relationship from my first daughter, and it was a heavy time for me. And so I was, typical, I will never date anybody else. I do not like men anymore. And I met him when I had surrendered to figuring out how to love myself. And when I met him, he, of course, typical, we met at a bar. And he came up to me and he said, do you want to dance? And I said, no, I don't. He's like, well, do you at least want to talk? And I said, sure. So we sat down and talked, and I spilled my guts to him, letting him know I wasn't ready for a relationship. I didn't want anything. And I was just, kind of there by chance, literally by chance. And so when we were going to walk away, I extended my arm out to give him a handshake. And he kind of looked at me like, what is this? Who handshakes at a bar? And I gave him a handshake. He asked for my number. And the rest was history. He called me that night when I got home. I had a message. And he just said, call me back. I just want to make sure you got home safe. You don't have to call me again. And then we talked every day since.
And then you just jumped into it?
So 16 years. No, we didn't jump into it. We did talk, however, every day. But I was very standoffish simply because I had a daughter and I wasn't going to introduce somebody immediately. And so we talked for about 6 months before we did anything. And then soon after that, we just kind of went straight into the relationship and did not look back after that.
So at what point did you realize it went from a friendship and him being patient and giving you that space, getting to know each other, to romantic?
I believe the first time was 3 months into this 6-month window. He wanted to hang out and I couldn't because I had my daughter. And I said, listen, I have my daughter. I can't right now. And he said, I just want to be in your space. Can I just be in your space? So I said, okay, I have this. I love to manifest, right? Mm-hmm. So I have this thing where I drive around like really beautiful towns and cities and just kind of like house hunt and look at all the beautiful homes. And I said, well, listen, I'm driving up to Pasadena and I'm just going to kind of drive around if you want to come with me. And he's like, sure. So he came in the car and my daughter was coincidentally asleep. And we drove around and he said, if this is what we did every day, I would be okay with that. And I said, that's so interesting. How boring this is for somebody else, and he's willing to do it every day. So I think that's when it turned for me where I thought, okay, maybe this can be something. Maybe he's not looking for your occasional, hang out or hook up, whatever that is. And so then I started kind of opening myself up. And then 3 months later is when we finally made it official, I guess. I mean, he made it official with a kiss. That was really what it was. Yeah. And then after that, there was no need to label anything. We just kind of went with the flow. Like, I don't think he ever asked me to be his girlfriend or, it just evolved into it. Yeah.
And your intuitive gifts, you've had them since you were a child.
Correct.
So when you met Jesse and how did your intuition play into that?
Because I was in a space of pain, I was really relying on my trauma to protect me more than my intuition. So I wasn't really paying attention to my intuition at that moment. I really was just trying to heal or at least protect myself with the pain of it. So I didn't really feel anything from him in that immediate moment. I think that, like I said, 3 months into it, I was in a much better space where I then felt, okay, this is going to be more than just a friendship or more than just a, quick relationship. And so I checked in with myself and I checked in with how I felt around him. And that's when I understood, okay, he's here to stay.
And it's 16 years later. And he's,
the interesting part about it was Spirit really tried me with him at the beginning. So I think that for me, the question was not if he was here to stay, if I really wanted him to stay. And so when that trial kind of passed, that's when I knew that I wanted him to be the person that I spent my life with. So it was a really interesting turn of events. I think because we as women try to find the one, and find that person, it becomes not so much the game, but it really becomes the motive. But when I started understanding that if I wanted something to last, I really had to accept the person more than wanting the person to accept me. So it was really beautiful when I finally realized, okay, this is who that is, you know.
Yeah, that you chose
Correct.
versus letting them choose.
Choose me.
It's a totally different headspace.
It
Right?
really, really is. And that was one of those aha moments for me. Oh, I can choose. You know, I'm not here trying to have someone pick me. You know, choose me.
We've been there. We've all been there.
Please choose me. Yeah, exactly. And that became a power move for me.
Yeah, it's a very empowering space to be in that. When that clicked for me too, that's when dating became way easier.
Correct. Exactly. When you're just like, listen, I have just as much authority over who I am with than the person on the other side, and that was a game changer. And I think that men see that. When men see that, it becomes a space of neutrality, you know, and nobody is more, you know, or less than the other. It really is like, here I am, here you are.
Yes.
What are we building?
Yes, energetically, even if I feel like you can't fake that. Or if you do, that's very short term.
Correct. It's exhausting as well.
And it's exhausting.
Definitely. Yes. And there's that constant checking in with each other. Like, are we still in that space? Do you still choose me? Do I still choose you? Yes. Okay, let's move forward.
Forever.
Yes. Yeah.
So
It's a constant check-in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about about the walls that you built up, the trauma, and that's very common with anyone who's been through trauma. Naturally, you want to protect yourself. So through your experience, and when you can I say coach other women, or when you're helping?
Absolutely,
helping
absolutely, yes.
your clients and other women, have you found a technique for gaining clarity sooner to tap into your intuition versus acting from trauma?
Yeah. So that is the exact question I asked them. Are you choosing this from a place of trauma, or are you choosing this from a place of intuition? Because if your intuition is telling you no, if you're asking me already if this is the person for you, then you already know the answer. You just need somebody else to clarify it for you. So once you decide that your intuition is much more important than your trauma, then the clarity is very easy. It just kind of appears for you. There's nothing or nobody that can make you see what you already know within, you know? And it is an inside job. I feel like women find it very easy to release their power to love than to be empowered by it. And I just make sure that they understand that love is there to guide them. It is not there to stifle or to encage them. And they try to find this person to bring them into that cage where, you know, most men like to be free. They like to roam. They like to, you know, feel like there's nothing that's trapping them. So that clarity really comes when you are okay with your intuition, when you are okay with allowing that intuition to guide you. Because it's not taking you, it's not going to stray you, you know. So, yeah, a lot of women don't like the question when I tell them that because they're like, oh.
You're like, just tell me.
Yeah.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, it really does. And they just really want to just tell me. I always tell them, like, you know, intuition is like your personal trainer. It knows what you need. It knows how you could get there. It's going to be sympathetic, but it's not going to allow you to feel sorry for yourself. You know, it's not going to allow you to create a lack space. And most women like to be in a lack space sometimes.
Do you ever tell them the answer?
Yes.
Oh, you do sometimes?
Yes.
Okay.
Because some of them are really, you know, some of them are really in that space of, I really can't even tap into myself.
Okay.
You know, so once I give them the answer, you can see the sense of relief.
Almost like they're hoping you would say what you were about to say.
Exactly. Even if it's a yes, like, yes, he's the one, or run. Just run. But I really would love for them to make that decision on their own. It's very important to be responsible for the person that you want to be with and for the person you want to be. Yeah.
Okay, so for the women who come to see you specifically asking about this, are there some common things that come up a
Yes.
lot
Yes.
with finding love?
Yes. It is, I think the number one question that I get is, will I ever meet the one? That's the number one question. Or is the person I am with the one? At the beginning, I would always tap into their space and, try to and see if that was somebody that was fitting for them. But after a while, I started to realize that in trying to find the one, they completely lost themselves. So I really came from a space of, first, let's love ourselves. Let's lift our frequency. Let's be in a state of full energy, being in our full space, our full power. So that way you're not looking for the one, but he just simply appears because you are the one to yourself. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do, but it is a lot of unpacking for the person. So at the beginning, I just simply ask them, are you looking for somebody to fill you? Or are you looking for someone to be a partner with you? Because if you're looking for someone to fill you, then nobody's going to be the one.
Do some people answer that?
Yes.
They do. Okay.
And you'd be surprised how many people want somebody else to fill them.
Okay.
I understand. But I think once you are full of yourself, the person that you are wanting to reflect will appear.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say that's true based on my own experience when I got in that space.
Yes.
And it's funny how easy, it's hard, but once you get there, it seems easy. Like, oh, well, there you are.
Exactly. Love is ease. It should not feel difficult. Nothing is easy on a human level, but it shouldn't feel difficult. And if it feels like you are pulling and pushing, then there's something that needs to be revisited within yourself. I like to tell people or my clients, love is an exchange. It's never a give and take. Because if you exchange, you're always in the flow of it. There's never more or less. But if there's a give and take, what you give might be less than what you take. And there's always that imbalance. So the exchange of energy is much easier than if you're asking someone, I'm going to give you this love. What kind of love are you going to give me back? So once you're willing to exchange energy with somebody, the responsibility of measuring who has more fades.
With self-love,
Yes.
Are there practices or exercises that you give to people to cultivate that?
The self-love part, yes. So a lot of people want to do, self-care, give yourself affirmations in the morning, look at yourself in the mirror,
Instagram.
say, I love you. I first start with acceptance. Look at yourself and accept you with all the baggage, be okay with all of it. Write yourself a letter, let yourself know that regardless of all of these things that you think are wrong with you, you accept it. I think self-acceptance is one of the hardest things for people to do, especially women, because of life, social media, everything that's happening. However, once you accept yourself, you can really, really start doing the work of unpacking the things that no longer serve you. And when you are in that light space, you're able to allow love in. I think a lot of people want to stuff love in spaces that pain still exists. So if you can uncover all of that and be in those moments and clear those spaces, that's where love kind of opens up for you. I give them an analogy of like when you have a child, you love them so much that you're willing to clean their crap. That moment, you know you love them because you wouldn't do it for anybody else.
Yeah.
So willing to clean up your stuff and willing to clear up your stuff, that's where the love is. The love isn't doing the hard things. The love isn't when you are getting your nails done, when you are getting a haircut. That's easy. But when you are in those spaces where it's okay to be in the pain, it's okay to be in the vomit of your pain, that's where you find that you love somebody or love yourself, you know? So I say the more you stand in your emotion and in your trauma, the easier it is to love yourself. So no, it's not the fun stuff.
No.
It's not the fun stuff,
It's
you
not.
know? It is in the trenches, in the dirt, in the crap, so to speak.
But if you want to build something great.
Yeah. Everything's in the foundation.
Yeah.
You know, love is energy. So it's not going to magically appear. I don't think you can will love to come to you. I think that you can call on it, but it has to find you working. Just like inspiration, creativity, it has to find you wanting to receive it. So if you make space for it, then it has somewhere to land. Otherwise, whereas, you know, it has nowhere to stay.
Right. To stay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a distinction too, because, right?
Yeah.
Long term
Exactly.
versus a Band-Aid or a fling.
Correct. A lot of people say, you know, will this be my forever person? No, it won't be your forever person. This version of this person is not going to be here forever. So you either decide and evolve together, or you don't. You know, you just kind of move on. I always say, I wish marriages were like car leases.
The option to renew?
Yeah. You know, there's like every 3 years you check in.
Mm-hmm.
Is the version of me the same version that you are in love with? Or are you still holding on to the old version? You know, are you okay that now I have a few dings and, you know, that I make noises? Like, is that okay with you? Yes, fantastic. Let's move forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think people assume that once they stay in a commitment, that is enough. You know, and you know, somebody asked me, like, wow, how did you stay so long? It was a choice. I choose to be in love daily because after 12 years, it's hard. You know, it's hard. It's not an easy task, but it is a rewarding task. And I am also okay if it no longer fits. And I think having that ability to be completely okay that it could expire relieves any type of tension or worry that it needs to be forever. Because I don't know that this is going to be a forever thing, I'm going to live it up and I'm going to experience it to the fullest.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's very honest and it's very realistic too.
Yes.
Because some people maybe don't want to hear that. They want to hear forever.
Yes.
Which can put pressure on something.
Correct.
Whenever there's force.
Correct.
It just doesn't feel good on either side.
Correct. And I understood that when I would be around other people's children. I was okay with them making a mess. I was okay with them, you know, spilling stuff, or I was actually in awe of that they were so creative or free. And I started thinking, why can't I be that way with my own? You know, what is it that I can watch that and be completely okay with it, but with my own, I had to control the outcome. And then I thought about that with my husband, and I was like, what is it? It is because I think that I have to control this because this has to be a forever thing, that then I have to witness or minimize what they're doing so that it doesn't affect me, so that I don't change my mind for my husband, my kids, there's no changing your mind, right? But I understood that because there is no responsibility to a forever with those children, that I can let them be exactly who they are. And so with my kids, I understood I am here witnessing their journey and kind of guiding them in their spaces, but I am not here to have them stay. They will eventually go. And so then I was able to see that with my husband. You know, I'm not going to have him forever. This is not a forever thing. Whether it's, he passes or we decide to move on, I'm just going to enjoy this. I'm not going to try and restrict it, because I was being very restrictive. Like, oh, if we want to last forever, we can only do this much this time. It was like I was rationing my experiences with him. And I decided I'm not going to ration anymore. I'm going to just let myself be and watch him evolve, watch me evolve, and come together and kind of, I guess, be in the reward of who we are becoming, witnessing and experiencing our evolution and who we really want to be. I always tell him, I know that you're going through a moment right now. So whatever or whoever or wherever that leads you, just come back. Come back to me, wherever you are in this space. And I think that for him, it has become a moment of release when I say that, because he understands, like, okay, I don't have to explain to her where I'm at right now. I don't have to explain to her what I'm feeling or why I'm going through this or who I'm experiencing with it. I just have to let her know my journey. I suppose it's a free feeling to say, this isn't a forever thing, and I'm gonna experience it.
I feel like that's what life is about. Like, what's the point of doing it?
Correct.
I mean, we're here to experience things, so shouldn't those experiences feel good?
Correct.
And if you're going for forever, I mean, the idea of that, of course, ideally would be nice.
Correct.
But if it's forever, but then it doesn't feel good, like, what is the point of that?
Right. Exactly. And I think no experience is forever. I always tell my husband, maybe next lifetime we'll do it better. Maybe next lifetime we'll have a better experience. I really feel being an intuitive medium, experiences and memories is all we take with us. Not the car you drove, not the work you did. It's just all the experiences and the memories. And so if we really want to take all that we are with us, then we have to have the free moments of memory where that was such a wonderful memory. That was such a wonderful experience. And why would we want to muddy it up with control? Why would we want to muddy it up with wanting to make it what we want to make it, So I really now in my space really just want to experience things. I just want to experience. I just want memories that are going to last me for forever. I want memories and experiences to last forever, not necessarily the person that gave them to me.
I'm curious with your intuitive skills.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the first time I met Rose, I wasn't even completely sure what you did. I just know I didn't want to look you in the eye. Which you said when I told you that. You're like, that's pretty common. People don't want to look at me. Like, she can see me.
Before or after, nobody wants to look at me in the eye.
Like, she can see me.
Yeah.
So with your husband, what is that like? Like, can you see what he's doing?
So it's so funny because when we get in those moments of arguments or misunderstanding, he's like, read me, go ahead and read me, And I'm like, I don't want to, there are things that I intuitively can feel, more so in the beginning of our relationship because I wasn't 100%, invested. I believe that my spirit guides wouldn't want me to see it all because then it would not be fun for me. And and then this human experience would be null and void. However, there are moments where if he isn't feeling well, or if I feel like maybe you shouldn't go to that space, or I feel like something, those moments of intuition do settle, and then we talk about it. But I never want to, and I do this with all my clients, I never want to impose or cross a line with their personal experience and how they see it. So I try to leave him alone, but there are some times where I'm like, I'm going to tap into your space.
Yeah.
You know, he also comes to me with like, hey, you know, I have this job interview or what have you, or like, does this feel good? And those are fun for me, but I don't ever want to intrude. So I let him be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does he ever admit things to you because he knows that you already know?
So he is the most honest man I've ever met in my life. And he's had to be, because I have caught him.
Okay.
More so again at the beginning. But he is so honest with me that I just don't feel the need to tap in, or, you know, and I appreciate that about him, because I can be Rose. I don't have to be Rose the intuitive. And he's a lot of people, my friends, when we are around them, they kind of just watch us in this space of like, wow, you guys are really raw with each other, because there's nothing to hide. Where are you going to put it? You know? And I love that about him. I think that's one of the things I love the most is, you know, he'll come home and he'll be like, listen, there was this girl and she was like gorgeous. And I, you know, like he speaks to me in that way, and people kind of like, here walking the plank. I think that's amazing. First of all, women are gorgeous.
And
so why wouldn't you?
It's natural too to find other people attractive.
Yes. Human connection and interaction to me is so important that I wouldn't want to take away or keep him from a person that would help him with his journey in any way, you know, in any way. We have boundaries, and those once crossed, you know, then that's a different conversation. But to have him feel like he is limited to me only, again, feels very engaging. And I wouldn't want that to be done to me. So I just let him be. And the interesting thing is that he doesn't ever care to do it.
What, if you don't mind sharing, you don't have to answer, but with your boundaries with like having crushes or being attracted to someone else, do you, like, is it to the point where it's like open relationship, or?
He does not do anything that he wouldn't want me to do.
Okay.
So he's like, nope, it can't be. I am very, very free about it. I have never found somebody that I would feel comfortable or have an experience like that. I think doing this work and interacting with people and connecting on a spiritual level, it does it for me, is enough. For him, he's just very much a family type of guy. Like, he loves his children and just would rather be around them. But the idea of him interacting with somebody else or being with somebody else, he's not there yet. You know, he's like, I just don't feel the need for it. And I realize that that's because he's not caged. You know, like there's no need for me to put him in a cage. And not to say that women do that on purpose or intentionally, but when we assume that marriage equals property, it does feel very caged.
Yeah.
So I would say that if you are going to commit to somebody on a marital, and this is obviously my humble opinion, if you are going to be in a marriage with somebody, you have to understand that they are in their own free will, you know, committing to you. And so if you want to keep them there, then there's no restriction in the sense of being who you are and trying to find who you are. Now, if you are constantly crossing boundaries, then that's another conversation. But stating the boundaries is very important. It's AKA communicating. I'm not comfortable here. Even if you said yesterday that this relationship would be open, if the next day comes and you're not comfortable with it, letting them know in that moment is really crucial. I'm not comfortable with this one, you know, or I'm not comfortable in this space anymore. Whatever it is, there has to be communication about it, period.
And how do you communicate that to your husband if a boundary's crossed?
First, I act.
Okay.
I am very, I guess, reactive in that sense. I just let him know how I feel in that moment. I am a Libra, so I have to have things immediately taken care of. So when I feel it, it has to be spoken on. And he's very much not that type of person. Like, let's all cool down. Let's have a conversation. But I need to explain it in that moment so that it doesn't lose the momentum or the weight of how I feel. And then he has to sit with it for a while. So respecting how we both need to, download it and work it out is very crucial to keeping the momentum of that moving forward, just because I need to release it from a space of trauma, right? Because trauma is why we react. And he needs to process it from his space of trauma. Then we heal the moment, right? Because everything is a learning moment or a teaching moment or however you want to explain it. But it's just a matter of saying it as I feel it for me. Doesn't always work, but it definitely helps.
And then how does he usually tend to respond to your needs? Besides, you said maybe he needs space to process it, but do you feel heard by him?
No. And I say no because there are times where it has to repeat a couple of times before he actually hears it.
Okay.
There are times where he gets it the first time and it's just like, okay, noted. But there are mostly it repeats at least 2 to 3 times. And then he understands. What I will say is the universe serves the dish bigger each time. You don't learn the lesson. So when it becomes too big for him to simmer, when it becomes a wildfire, he usually gets it at that point because it takes a lot longer to put out.
And that takes patience on the other person's
Yes.
side.
Yes.
Is that something you had to learn?
Patience?
Being married and a parent?
Yes, 100%. Patience is not a virtue for me. It really was something that I had to learn. It definitely didn't come easy, nor did it come naturally. I had to learn patience, and he has a lot of it. He does have a lot of patience, but for me, I had to learn it. And watching him be patient was a good teacher for me.
Did you ever at any point through the learning process of learning patience, if something wasn't working out, that you would say something like, okay, I'm out of here?
Oh, yes. Yes. At the beginning of our relationship, he was very, mind you, I wish that people would talk about their trauma at the beginning of the relationship. This is how I was raised. This is how I was raised. This is how I would act in a certain, situation. But I believe he was one of the only people in my life that allowed me to explode and then settle and then pick myself up and had no judgment. And I thought that was part of the learning patience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Letting somebody fall, pick themselves up, and not feel embarrassed by it is very liberating.
For clarity, so when you chose him the first time, what's the reason that you chose him?
The first time?
Yeah.
I think why I chose him was because I felt a sense of safety. If I'm being very honest, he made me feel real safe. Again, because there was no judging, there was no judgment. He understood all my insecurities. He understood all my craziness. And he let me be all of it. And he still loved me. He wasn't going anywhere, was his words. I'm not going anywhere. And I constantly had to hear that, unfortunately, for a long time before I was okay with it. But that was it. I felt a sense of safety. I found a sense of home within myself with him.
And then today, are the reasons similar of why you choose him?
Yes. There is a moment, and I mean, this might be a little TMI, but there's a moment at the end of the night where we are in bed and he just hugs me. And however it sinks, however we sink in that moment is how I know we're still okay. Because there's no words, regardless of what happened throughout the day. In that one moment, I can feel him and he can feel me, and that's all we need, So I believe until that moment fades for me, he will always be my place of home.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah. It's just a knowing.
So for women who are looking for let's talk about soulmates.
Okay.
Because I hear that word a lot. People looking for their soulmate. And I believe you can have more than one soulmate.
Correct.
And they come in different forms.
Correct.
And when we had talked before, you had said that about connecting with others. Like just because you connect with someone doesn't necessarily mean you're meant to be with them. Correct. Or that it needs to be physical.
Correct.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yes. So a soulmate really is a soul that has traveled with you through time. Yeah. And in other lifetimes could have taken the form of anything: father, son, mother, daughter, friend, anything, and that's a teacher. So when a soul recognizes another soul, it is a moment of connection. Because we are living a physical, earthly experience, we assume that it has to interact on a physical or love, interaction relationship level, especially if it's female to male, opposite, or however you attract your love. It is the hardest thing to determine whether this soul is here for a glimpse to remind you of the feelings within you, or if this person's someone that I need to experience a physical interaction with or a love interaction with. I always feel like soulmates, sometimes they're just here to teach you a lesson or give you awareness of who you really are, gives a sense of awareness. So it's hard to distinguish. Do I interact with them? Are they meant to be? Is this the person I'm supposed to be with? Versus I'm just going to experience this person because I know we're connected on a soul level, and he or she is just here to visit. Does that make sense? Like, is he visiting, or is she visiting, or is she staying for a season, or is she staying forever? If you can ask yourself that, your intuition will give you the answer. Often we don't listen because a soul connection feels so deep that you assume they're supposed to love you. That's not always the case. So I would say that if you find your soulmate in a person that you feel attracted to, check in with that emotion and see if it's just a habitual state of being or a factual state of being. Is this really somebody that I, want to interact with, or is this just from a place of habit? Anytime I feel a connection, I'm going to try and,
right,
exploit it to the fullest.
Yes. I mean, it's, I'm not as spiritual as you are, but I the way
yes,
I was, I haven't tapped fully into my powers yet.
The awareness is still becoming bigger and bigger as we speak.
But I would equate it to like feeling the butterflies maybe when you meet somebody.
Well, yeah. So the butterfly feeling truly is this sense of your intuitive space, which is your gut, is telling you that this person is somebody you've traveled with. Like, it's a remembrance. So a lot of people assume, oh my gosh, they give me butterfly feelings. Yeah, because your intuition is remembering. Our body's technology. And so your body and all of the emotions and feelings is just a receiver. It's just, an amplifier. So if you remember this person, it's going to tell you that you remember this person. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, explore it to the fullest. That butterfly feeling for me is always a sense of, I loved you once. Do I want to love you again?
Oh. For me, the butterfly feeling, well, during my dating experience before meeting my husband, a therapist told me kind of a different version. She said, those butterflies for you are actually anxiety. So you might not want to listen to them all the time. But I mean, I just take it more as it's a feeling, but that, because I took it as that means something. Like that means we're going to be together. But it was completely unrelated.
So the way I see it too is when excitement and I think I've said this before with you, I'm not even sure, but excitement and fear or anxiety really feels the same. If you remove the label, your body is doing the exact same thing. We determine what we label it based on the experience we are in. So if I am walking down an alley and I feel this feeling, I am going to label it fear, because it's a dark alley and I don't know what's happening there. If I meet somebody and I feel this feeling, I'm going to label it, anxiety or, excitement. However, your body is just telling you something is about to happen. You decide what you want that to be, right? So when you meet somebody, it could very well just be telling you, this person before, or this person is going to shift your reality as you know it. We just automatically assume it's a love connection. Versus let's really see how this pans out first.
Soulmate versus twin flame.
Yes.
Because twin flame, I've been hearing that term more.
Twin
so
flame.
What is the definition of a twin flame?
So a twin flame, oh, bless those twin flames. Twin flame really is a part of you. Right? And a twin flame will always find you. However, it is very, very, volatile. It's either very hot or very cold because it's a piece of you. You're interacting with a space within you. So this person is part of your soul. So you will always come back. You will always be. But I feel like a twin flame imprints on you, and a soulmate just helps you remember.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So the imprint of a twin flame, you'll always know where they're at. You'll always feel them, whether they're, million miles away or you're actually with them. There's always a state of, I know where this person is. He is always, or she is always in my consciousness. And a soulmate just really helps you learn lessons and remember who you are, or helps you remember a space within you. Because remember, we're remembering in lifetimes. We're not experiencing for the first time. Everything we've experienced has happened at one point or another throughout our soul journey.
And do some people end up, because from my spiritual conversations with friends, twin flame, I was under the impression that twin flame in general is not good for you long term. Like it's very tumultuous.
Yes.
But
yes.
Do some people, can they end up with their twin flame like really long term?
Yes, because they assume that is their person, because they're so enamored and there's so much emotion and there's so much that, twin flames make you really feel alive. Whether it's pain or love or what have you, feeling is feeling. They definitely don't leave you numb. In some relationships, you can tend to be numb. So with the twin flame, I don't think you could ever feel that sense of numbness. And so yeah, you can stay with them. It would just be a really, beautiful, raw, exhausting experience.
Like exhausting.
Yeah.
That word. That's something that I kept in mind when choosing my husband.
Yes.
Was I didn't want to feel exhausted.
Yes.
And if you think long term, because I've been in relationships where it did feel exhausting.
100%.
And if it's a fling in Italy or whatever, sure.
Yeah.
Up and down's fine for a few months. So yeah, that was fun.
2 months of this I can handle.
That was fun.
Yeah.
But forever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, it can be very daunting to think that it does require, some type of criteria to find somebody to be with forever. Because you can be in love with somebody and know that they're not good for you. And then find somebody that, does really fit well with you. And so who do you choose? Are you choosing longevity, or are you choosing the state of passion? And both can be very good, but what is it that you really need? You just have to tap into what is good for you.
Well, we are running out of time.
Oh, so much fun.
I know. I can talk to you for a really long time. So if people are interested in booking a session with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on my website, roserendon.com. I'm on Instagram. roserendon9 is my handle. But those are the places where I usually receive my bookings from.
Very cool. And guys, I really recommend getting a session with Rose. She gave me a lot of clarity. And she also told me a lot of cool things that are going to be happening in my life. I feel it. I do feel it.
In hindsight, it's going to be fabulous.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. I truly appreciate it.